Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch deluxe action figure of the Dark Trooper from the Mandalorian Disney Plus TV show. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, or even hit the super thanks button. All engagement is appreciated. Now let's have a quick look at the box. On top, we have a window to let the light in, and down to the bottom, some product information. Down to the side of the box, we have the Dark Trooper holding his blaster, marching into battle, and he's accompanied by the armies in the background. Moving on to the back of the box. Description of the Dark Trooper's character over here, that same artwork. He's also number 28 in the Mandalorian series. And finally, some product information at the bottom as well. Finally, onto the last side of the box is the remaining part of the window. So let's now go ahead and get him open. Out of the packaging, we have the Dark Trooper. He's got his blaster on the side, 2 interchangeable fists, as well as 2 blast effects for his thrusters. The blaster is cast in a dark grey plastic and looks kind of like a shotgun. There's detail for the magazine down the side, as well as the sort of pump grip over here below the barrel. And on the other side, there seems to be some sort of sighting box attached to it. And there's also a hit of grey paint at the top. The Dark Trooper holds his blaster rifle with his right trigger hand as well as his left supporting hand, and he looks pretty good holding that blaster. Next up, he comes with 2 interchangeable fists that are cast in a black plastic. I do believe this might be the first time that we're seeing interchangeable hands in Star Wars Black Series figures. And also interestingly, these fists come with holes in them instead of the usual pegs that you would expect for interchangeable hands. There's nice sculpted detail on them as well, and you can see those mechanical fingers and thumb, and also there is an armor plate on the back of his hand. His hands are easy enough to change out. You just pop off those hands that come with by default and pop on those fists into those pegs on the wrists. It's quite a snug fit, and now you have the option of posing the Dark Trooper with fists to get into some punching action. However, I must say those fists look kind of small on his body, but that might just be the design of the droid itself. And lastly, he comes with 2 blast effects. These are cast in a translucent yellow plastic with fading for the orange paint near the bottom, and that's a nice effect to have a color fade on the blast effects. The new blast effects do look like they're borrowed from the sculpt of the blast effects from the Deluxe Boba Fett action figure, with the difference being the peg over here now is smaller compared to the one on the Boba Fett effect. And that smaller peg does go into the bottom of his boots. And because those pegs are balls, you do get some little bit of articulation when you peg them into the bottom of his feet. So the blast effects are really cool once you pose them onto the Dark Trooper blasting off to kidnap Grogu. The Dark Trooper is a brand new sculpt. He's mostly made of a black, glossy plastic, really looking cool, sleek, and very evil. The glossy finish is really quite impressive in hand, but there are also several other wonky bits about this figure that I will talk about later. Zooming into that head sculpt, and it's really cool and evil looking. The red paint is very sharply applied within his eyes, and he's also got quite an intimidating grill on the front of his mouth. The rest of the helmet is quite angular, really lending to the cold, hard metal look of the rest of the suit. The panel design goes all the way around the helmet, and once you look below that helmet, you can also see some mechanical detail on his neck. That detail is also quite apparent on the front of the figure. His shoulder armor as well as his torso armor is all smooth, glossy black plastic. Couple of details down the front of that torso armor. There are 4 buttons over here that are painted in red. However, mine looks as if the paint is a little sloppy and applied outside of the sculpt. The smooth shoulder pads also do articulate up and down for you to pose his arms. Now the first wonky bit about his armor is that this torso armor piece is actually an overlay. So it tends to move around and sometimes doesn't want to sit quite straight up. And that might upset your OCD a little bit. Onto his abdominal area, there's also nice tech detail and silver paint in order to break up all the dark grays and blacks. Moving on to his arm, once again we also see the angular sculpt, silver paint on the middle of the bicep, more silver paint on the elbow joints as well. Hasbro has also, once again, used that transparent plastic for the peg in the elbow, as well as the wrists and knees, plus the ankles. So this transparent plastic, I really hope it holds up and doesn't become brittle over time. There's a piston design on the front of his forearm that's also painted in silver, once again also breaking up all that black. And now we move on to the back of that figure. Sculpted detail on the back of that armor plate. Once again, more tech detail on that lower back area, with also some silver paint to break up all that dark colors. His belt is also a flexible plastic piece, and you can see that you can move the pouches out of the way. On the front of the belt, it looks a little warped and slanted on mine, and that also bugs me quite a bit. His legs are also really nicely sculpted. Those angular, smooth armor plates have some design on the joint for his hip, and once you spin those armor plates around, there's really nice tech detail sculpted on the inside of those hips, with more silver paint once again, and this is a really nice touch, adding detail and colors below the armor plates. His knee joints and ankle joints are designed the same ways as the elbows and wrists, with silver paint on them, and onto his feet they also have this angular design, kind of looking like they have two toes. So overall, it's a really understated, yet cool and slick sculpt and paint scheme on this figure. Despite the Dark Trooper essentially being a strong, rigid droid, he's got plenty of articulation. The neck has got two ball joints, one at the top and one at the bottom, so you can spin his head around. You can also use those two ball joints to get good sideways tilting. He looks down that far, as well as up, which is quite a good angle for those flight poses. He's got a butterfly joint at his shoulders, so he does pull his arms forward that much, as well as backward quite a bit. There's a swivel hinge at the shoulders, so you can move his arms forward and backward, and they also go out quite a good bit. At the elbow region, there's a swivel just above the elbow that doubles up as a bicep swivel, and then we have a single hinge elbow, and that gets you just past 90 degrees. Because of the way the joint is designed on this droid, those elbows also bend backward. Now there's a swivel also just below the elbow, so you can spin his forearm around. We also have the same design of joints on the wrist. So once again, swivel, hinge, and swivel. That means you can spin his wrist all the way around on both swivels. And that hinge also gives you flexibility to hinge his hands up and down, or even in and out. He's got a mid-torso ball joint, and that means you can spin him all the way around, also getting some good sideways tilting. The forward bend is decent enough, as well as the backward bend. He's got a ball joint at the hips, and that gets a decent range for a droid. No problems forward and backward as well. You can get a bit more range once you spin that thigh armor out of the way. There's a thigh swivel, so you can spin his leg out and in. Same joint design on the knee as you've seen on his elbows. So there's a swivel, hinge, and a swivel once more. Spinning it all the way around, getting a good almost 90-degree knee bend. Also means you can bend his knee forward as well. And once more, you can also spin that calf piece out and in. Now looking at his ankles, and there are more regular design. There's a hinge up and down, and also pivoting outwards and inwards. So despite being a stiff droid, you can pretty much get a lot of dynamic range and poses out of this scheme of articulation, which is pretty impressive. That said, after handling and posing this guy around for a little bit, I do think that the glossy plastic is a little soft and gummy, so I do hope that the plastic stays durable. I also managed to apply a bit of heat to his belt and fix the warping, getting it into position and then applying a little bit of super glue to keep it in place. The Dark Trooper is a pretty big figure for the Black Series, coming in at just under 6.5 inches, and that's under 16.5 centimeters. I love that the Dark Trooper is pretty big and towers over Luke and Mando. Naturally, the Dark Trooper also towers over Moff Gideon and the Incinerator Trooper. I like how the glossy black on the Dark Trooper really matches the glossy black armor on Moff Gideon as well. And here he is with Boba Fett and a Sculpt Trooper. For comparisons with other lines, here he is with some G.I. Joe Classified series, as well as some Marvel Legends. The Dark Trooper is a very well produced figure. Despite the slightly soft plastic, the articulation is tremendous. The glossy black plastic definitely amps up the sleek factor, and having an army of these will be extremely cool but expensive because this figure is charged at the deluxe price point. As a fan of the Mandalorian Disney Plus series, I can recommend this figure and I can't wait to build my own small army of them. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, subscribe to my channel, and even hit the super thanks button. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.